Hi everybody, welcome to Nazo Circus. How is everybody doing? Stop making me laugh. You guys, today's guest is back by popular demand and she's already making me laugh. So you guys know that this session will be juicy. As usual, I let my guests introduce themselves and I'm sure many of you will know this person. So lady, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, it's me again, Duchess Iphie, the intimacy strategist, queen of all things relationship, sex, and intimacy. And I apologize in advance because this is just going to be informative, but also full of laughter.
Yes, so as usual, and that's what we want. That's what we want on Nazo Circus. We don't want anything too serious.
No,
if we can help it. Okay, so Duchess, today we are talking about sex. We've talked about sex before. We talked about sex, the mature woman. Today we are talking about sex, and I've titled it Sex, the Birds and the Bees.
Ooh.
And so that should give a hint to what we are discussing. I am just curious as to when it's okay to discuss sex with our children.
Oh, when is
so
it?
that's what we're discussing today, guys. When is a good time for parents to start introducing the topic of sex to their children? What do you think?
Okay, so I would say that it's not the idea of actually having a conversation about sex. It's about the concept of relationship, sex, and health. Because if you're talking about sex education, what most parents think about is about the full sexual act. And that's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is the sexual encounter in its entirety, not just the act itself. So for me, I always say that sexual conversation, well, not even sexual conversation, sex education in its fullness should start at the age of 5 or 6.
Okay.
That's where you start. But you should also remember that you have the conversation based on their level of understanding. So don't have a conversation I have with a teenager with a 6-year-old because you would be serving no purpose, no value.
And why do you think 5? What is it about that age, 5, 6?
That's when they go to school. I mean, if we're based on the UK, that's when they go to school.
Yeah.
So that's when it's almost, it's big school in the sense that from if they've been in nursery or, reception where everybody's a bit mollycoddling them and kind of just, there's a lot more attention given to them and treating them like babies. But now they're going to school where, even though it's not big school because we normally call secondary school big school, it is big enough for them that they're now interacting with other children. They're going to the toilet by themselves, they're potty trained and they're playing with other children as well. And curiosity will make them ask questions which some teachers are just not equipped to handle. And other children are also not equipped to handle. They go and tell their parents and, it can just become messy. So it's good to start having certain types of conversations with your children as they start school.
And it makes sense when they get to that age. But I think it's also important for teachers to know how to, or be taught how to answer questions, even if it's in a general sense. I'm not expecting them to go, deep into. But if a child asks, should there not be something?
So a teacher can, but you also have to remember that teachers can only do so much. They're teaching every subject. So the way they would answer the question might not be the way you want your child to know the answer to that question.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and reality is that no one's going to love your child like you do.
Yeah.
No one's going to be concerned about their understanding like you are. So why would you leave it to a teacher to do that? Because even most of us who have slightly older children, we give them extra tuition. We want to have conversations with their homework. Even if we don't understand the homework, we try. So why would this be a subject that we will now run away from? We should also proactively step up and say, you know what? Let's have this conversation. And if you don't know, then research how to start having that conversation. But it is part of the holistic approach to your child. You teach them everything.
I think that was my next question. Like, how do you introduce, what sorts of conversations should you be having to, gradually introduce that topic?
So, I mean, the thing about it, every child is different.
Yeah.
Children are curious about their private part. So it's a case of letting them know that mommy's is different from daddy's. When they ask you a question about anything, where do babies come from? How do babies get made? Why is mommy's different from daddy's? Whatever the case may be, always use that as a teaching opportunity. So I would say things like, where do babies come from? Take them to a farm. Because animals have children.
True.
So take them to a farm and have the conversation there because they can see. So it's educative, but it doesn't make it sexual.
Yeah, which I think that's what frightens many parents. They don't want it to be like, we're approving of sex, and a lot of them are uncomfortable with even, talking about it in explicit terms.
Absolutely.
So I like this farm idea because I never even thought about that, to be honest. Because you can a cow having
a calf.
Yeah.
You go. Most times you'd always go. There's a little lamb somewhere,
Yeah.
and you would always say, "Oh, that's a baby lamb." So, and that's how you explain. Oh, that's how you came about. And it's also a case of not lying to your child. So it's also saying, "Oh, mommy has an egg, daddy has a seed." Like if you go to the garden, you plant the seed. Yes, there might be questions like, "Oh, so how does the seed get?" I'll let you know as you grow older. You don't need to know that now. But it's about the honesty and the trust that you are having the conversation. You're not shutting them down, because the worst thing you can do to a child is shut them down, because it just makes them more curious.
Yeah.
It's about having a conversation. Saying, but when you're a little bit older, we can talk about it more. And even make an exaggeration. Say, okay, mommy's written it down, so mommy's not going to forget. Do you see? So they know that you're taking it seriously, but most importantly is the fact that they know that you're not going to shut them down. But you can even do the basic things. Like I always say that you should let children know about the the triangle. So their chest and their private part. No one should touch it. They should, no one should touch that. And the thing about it is that when you say no one should touch it, that includes you parents. You can't say one thing and do another. So it's not the one that, when you're giving them a bath, you now say, "Oh, he's getting bigger." No.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you're giving them mixed messages.
Duchess, you know what you just said, and I'm laughing because now that you're saying it, I'm actually thinking about it. Many parents, we just feel like that child is ours. We gave birth to you. We wiped your bum. We did everything. So basically, your body belongs to us. In loose terms.
Yeah.
So no part of that child's body to that parent is a no-go area. Let me wash your bum. We just and thinking about that's just like very invading their privacy. But you're not understanding, and you think you're being loving, but you know what I mean. I think that's where parenting back home and parenting here is very different.
It is very different because they were like, "You're a child, what do you know?" But
you can't even try to tell your parent back home, "Don't wash." Are you okay?
But but the thing about it is that if we're taking, we have to lead by example, because that's how the information is embedded. So if you're going to tell them, "Oh, nobody should touch you there," but you can, and maybe, say for instance, the house girl can, how do they start to differentiate who is allowed and who is not? So if you want to wash, can I wash you there? What's the big deal about asking your child? So they understand about consent. They give permission. If they say no, then you can have a conversation with your child. Mommy has to wash it because if not, it's going to be smelly. And it's not because you're diminishing your responsibilities as a parent, but it's about teaching them about, you have the right to say no. You have the right to say yes. Because if we think of statistically, most children are abused by people they know. Because nobody is teaching them the boundaries.
Yes.
Everybody's an uncle, everybody's an auntie. So therefore, they're like, "Oh, his uncle, his auntie, so it's okay."
Yeah.
And then you as a parent, you don't realize. So what happens to them? So we have to be intentional about educating even our children's children, because we're getting to the age where our children are going to start having children.
Yeah.
To say, you need to be proactive about these things. Teach them. Say no. Say stop. If somebody tells them stop, you stop.
Yeah.
You have to understand that. Having people say, "Oh, but but it's not everything that you can say stop to." Yes, you can. that gives you an opportunity to explain. Because do you know how many children are excluded from school because another child says, oh, I was touched inappropriately, which was not actually because they wanted to be inappropriate. They just didn't know.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right. And something else that you talked about, this uncle and everybody's uncle, auntie. You know, growing up, so many uncles and aunties, especially back home where, you know, a lot of families had people living with them.
Mm-hmm.
So many uncles and aunties were responsible for giving baths now. That was one
now.
of the things that, you know, the auntie or the uncle would be expected to do. Because let me speak in Igbo. J1 for people that understand Igbo, or for people that don't understand, please just go and help me give my child a bath. And I'm just thinking about...
You don't know what's going on. Let's be honest.
The exposure.
Exactly.
And the risks.
Yeah. Because you're even thinking, okay, yeah, but is uncle bathing your son?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that your son cannot be violated.
Yes,
he can.
by uncle, whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And if you think about it, remember that, and I always used to say this, I said, most men, our generation, that are age mates, lost their virginity to one auntie or one house help.
True.
If you think about it, that's rape.
True. Yeah.
That is rape.
And I think that a lot of them, you know, or the few people that have admitted to it, they're not angry. They still don't grasp.
I think it's a rite of passage.
They still don't even grasp what has happened. What happened.
I think it's a rite of passage. But how else would it happen?
Yeah.
But you see, the thing about it is that we don't know that subconsciously it affects us in the way that we interact sexually. So what we think is normal might not actually always be normal because there's some sort of trauma attached to it.
Yes, underlying thing. Yeah.
So for why would we want our children to go through that? I mean, especially when you're in this country where, especially with the internet, dick pics are going up and down.
Of course.
You're like, how are you protecting your child? And as they're growing, even at the 5 and 6, their curiosity is, okay, say no, where the babies come from. That as they're growing, they're seeing things. How are you then educating them about the fact that you don't need to watch porn? You don't need to, because but it's available.
So from that 5 to 6, that introducing it from 5 to 6, as they get older and as they become teenagers, I think what I'm trying to figure out is how, the word is not graphic, how extensive can your conversations, or should your conversations be as they get older? Because we're talking about exposure to all sorts of things. They're seeing these things, their friends are seeing this, people are forwarding things to them. You know, at what point do you like have that, you know what, this is sex, A, B, C, D, E?
I think from, let me make people comfortable, 11. From 11, I think you should go graphic, because at 11, they are, what's it called? Secondary school.
Yes.
So they're in secondary school. They're now talking about sexual health and all that kind of stuff. So you now have to start to talk about their body parts, talk about cleanliness, period is coming, wet dreams already started happening. All these things you have to have a conversation
and
about.
You have to have those conversations before the things even start happening, so they're not even confused.
Yeah, and empower yourself with knowing what the curriculum is for relationship, sex, and health education as well, because then you can understand what is coming up.
And
but the thing is that you also know your child best. You know what they can grasp and what they can't grasp. And sometimes, let's be honest, we can see in their phone that they have seen something that they don't. I mean, I remember I saw porn in my son's phone at 13. I'm not gonna lie, And I remember I screenshotted it and sent it to the father. I said, "This is what your son is doing. Deal with it." Even me, I didn't want to deal with it. I was like, "No, deal with it. You're the dad." But realistically, I should have stepped up because I'm his parent too, and he probably would have listened to me more than he probably would have listened to his dad. But it's you can talk about contraceptions. You can talk about, as I said, the health bits. You know, the body parts, and the act of penetration. And the reason why I say that is because, if you are like me, that my own sex education was once you start your period, if a boy touches you,
you're pregnant. If you're pregnant, you're bringing shame. Simple.
You know? But the truth of the matter is that it's not true. That's not education. That's nothing. That's scaremongering.
That's threat. That's threatening. That's threatening you.
You know,
not to dare.
Exactly. But the thing about it is that 11-year-old touch and somebody entering you, are they really the same thing? Do you understand? So they will not allow a boy touch them, but they might allow a boy enter them. So you have to then learn to have the conversation. And I get it when parents are reluctant to have these sexual conversations because they think that it's going to promote promiscuity. But it doesn't. All it does is educate them and empower them to make right choices. Because trust me, your child is going to have sex.
Yeah. Hey.
That's the reality. It's just a matter of when. And you want to give them as much information for them to make the right choice at the right time for them to have it. But if you think that it's going to encourage them to have sex, no, because that's a no more than is encouraging us to. I mean, we all did math. It did not make me go and do the almighty formula more than it was taught to me.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
And the thing is, I think one of my fears is, as these children grow, them learning things from their friends who are also just learning from friends. So if you don't have that conversation, and I think another thing that I would like to talk about is the fact that I know that growing up, I don't know about you, the same thing that you raised about if your period comes, you have sex, you're going to get pregnant, and that is the length of the the conversation. And I feel like, yes, maybe that happened to us, and obviously some of our parents were not equipped to have those conversations with us. But we must do better. So we can't just continue that process, that thought process. We have to do better.
We have to. And the thing about it, we like to use this as, I remember seeing it on a lady who's a parenting coach on Facebook, and she said that we need to get away from that excuse of saying we turned out fine.
Yeah.
How do you know we turned out fine? Just because you see us functioning does not mean that we turned out fine.
Trying to navigate life.
Exactly. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. So with our children, I remember reading when I was kind of doing research, because when I started kind of doing Parents Don't Be Shy, and I was doing research, and they said in 2022 that the amount of sexual bullying that was happening to girls and boys in secondary school was very high. That was the number one issue of sexual bullying. What does that mean? Where you're made to feel bad if you're not having sex, where you're being given pictures or you're told to send pictures. If not, you are not part of the clique. Now, how many of our children are going to come and have that conversation? Say, "Oh, mom, they're asking me to send a picture," or "I made a mistake and sent it."
Yeah.
Very few.
They're not going to come and say.
They're not going to come because we are just going to. First of all, the way we are even going to react to self, fear will not even allow them to come and tell us.
That's true.
And that's what we need to get away from, because yes, for those who are religious. And even from a moral perspective, if people want to go there, they will say sex is a sin. You shouldn't have premarital sex. And I don't have a problem with telling your child not to have premarital sex, but that's not what we're talking about. The first one is don't drive before you have a license. But people, you have to learn how to drive. Yeah. So teach them about sex. Teach them that you do not have to feel compelled to send a picture of yourself to anybody. Anybody who wants a picture of you, tell them no, and it's okay. I remember I was speaking to my son, and he said to me, "Oh, that you can." I mean, I think it's changed now, but at the time when we were having the conversation, he said to me that, "Oh, at 16 you can get a hotel room." Now that floored me, because I was like, "What?
Oh dear."
I'm like, so normal like doing behind the bicycle shed. Now you're telling me you can go and get a bed and do it comfortably. Hey,
in Premier, wherever,
my dear. But how many parents know that? Yeah. Because if you don't educate yourself, how do you educate your children? And that was even part of the reason why I even did Parents Don't Be Shy. Because I remember, let me even tell you a story, why I even started Parents Don't Be Shy.
I was going to ask you, we need to talk about this Parents Don't Be Shy series. Is it a series?
So, interesting enough. So, Parents Don't Be Shy was supposed to be a series and kind of like a group, which I've kind of parked for a while, but I should kind of resurrect it. And I started it because I remember I was driving one day and my daughter, sitting in the car, asked me, "Mom, what's a pansexual?" Okay. See, I like how you're laughing, because you know what.
Are you serious?
Yes, you know what it is now. Yeah. And my son, I remember she was sitting beside me. My son was in the back, and I was driving. At that time, I had two choices. I could either be the intimacy coach, or I could be the Nigerian parent. Trust me, I battled between where did you hear that from? And I was like, okay, no, let's take it another way. Why are you asking? And she said, "Oh, I saw it because in my classroom they use it for the LGBTQ++. I don't want to call it meeting, but that's the room that they use, because she goes to a girls' school." Now that was information to me, and that was insight to me, because I was like, "Oh yeah, that's true. she's in a girls' school, and there are some people that have transitioned that would be in her school. So I then explained to her what pansexual was. And I'm fortunate enough that I know what it is. And we had the conversation. But then that led to other conversations as well. And I was like, wow, if I struggled debating between being a Nigerian parent and a UK parent, considering that I've been here since I was 17.
You're not even when we talk about Nigerian parents,
I'm not. I
don't even know whether we will, you're visiting Nigeria.
You know, exactly. You know,
you're not a full member.
I'm not. I've been here since I was 17.
Yeah.
And I was, so I was born here. So technically, I've only lived in Nigeria for 10 years. So
we need to give you visitors visa. We need to give you this group because I don't know that you're a full member, but okay.
I still struggled. So I was like, if I struggled, how many other parents are struggling? Especially when you now add religion to it.
Hey, I was gonna just say that.
You see, so how many children want to have that conversation? Because even research says that children, even though we think that children have access to a lot of information, what we forget is that the information they have access to is not always correct. And they need someone to filter that information for them.
And it's an overload sometimes.
Exactly.
If you Google whatever, everything will come out. How do you narrow it down? And
exactly. And you have to, I tell my children to Google stuff and then we have a conversation about it. But I said, there is so much information out there that they can't decipher what is right and what is wrong. And that's where you need to step in. Yeah. So my daughter could have Googled what pansexual was.
Yeah, of course.
But she asked me, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that my daughter doesn't, but because I answered that question, it made her feel comfortable to talk to me about different things. I remember then it was, she would say someone is lang or someone is paying, and then she would say, that we are, there's so many slangs, but she felt comfortable to now come and sit down in my room and be crossing leg and be educating me.
Yes, yeah.
And I was happy with that. And then my son watched and also said to have conversations with me. So even my son, when he had a girlfriend, he told me he had a girlfriend. When they broke up, my son told me and I was able to comfort him. But if I'd been that, go and read your book, no, he wouldn't have told me. And then that heartache that he suffered, because what we have to remember is that as young children, that heartache is real. Whether we call it puppy love or not, to them at that point in time, puppy that heartache
is the main love now. Because as you get older, you can navigate your emotions.
Exactly.
But at that point, that's like...
So you have to create that atmosphere for your children to come to you. And it's not just about boys speak to dad, girls speak to... No. Boys speak to both parents, girls speak to both, because they have different perspectives and look at it from different angles. And for me, it's a case of children want to have a conversation with their parents. Even if we don't believe, statistics says that they do. They just don't want it to be in an accusatory way. They don't want it to be, I told you you must do. Don't ask me questions. Do as I say. They want a conversation, a dialogue. And that's why I was like, if you don't know how, ask, let us help you. Because you are doing your child a disservice if you are not educating them. We only make good choices. Everybody makes good choices based on information that they have. If you don't have information, how can you make good choices?
Yeah.
I've been on the bus, the days when I used to sit upstairs, and I had a girl, she was in her secondary school uniform. She said, if you have sex without protection, you can take paracetamol, you won't get pregnant.
Are you kidding me?
You and I both know that's not true.
Yeah.
But that's what she said. But she had a mobile phone in her hand.
Yeah. So that information
just
came from,
and she can go and get paracetamol anywhere now. So do you understand?
Yeah.
So this is what we are. So whilst we have all these boys and all these girls doing and undoing and listening to all these kind of songs, the reality is that they are still getting in trouble the same way that we were getting in trouble.
Yes.
And we are blue film.
Yes.
We were still getting in trouble. It's not like we didn't have encyclopedia to open to and know what happened, but we're still getting in trouble. So why do we think that it's any different for our kids now? Especially now that they're even doing and undoing. Plus those that want to...
It's just ridiculous.
Even those that want to maintain virginity by having anal. It's happening. Just so that for those cultures that need them to be a virgin when they marry, but they're having anal.
Yeah.
Who is having a discussion to them about the disadvantages of having consistent anal sex? Nobody's having those conversations with them. How are you even educating your child? You don't want to. Let's even talk about something, because I remember when I was doing research, and they said that we're talking about all this, the physical act of it. No one's having a conversation about the emotional side of sex.
Yeah.
Your daughter is in love. Her heart is broken. Who is she going to go to? Your son is heartbroken. Or your daughter has two guys talking to her. She doesn't know what to do. How does she handle that? She has a crush, but he goes and takes somebody else.
And her heart is... She's pining.
She's pining. Her schoolwork is... You said, get over it. these are also things you have to discuss, because the act of sex is not just physical, it's also emotional. What happens if she does have that sex and then he snubs her tomorrow?
How is she going to
Navigate
walk around
that?
with her, yeah. I think that as a people, our focus is just on don't you dare go and carry belly. And in fact, the focus is even mainly on the girls.
Yes.
We're not even talking about the boys are not even, that's another issue that we'll even go to. The focus is on the girls. You're getting older, you've hit puberty, if you have sex too, you will carry belly. Don't go and carry belly. Finish your studies, get married. Of course, we throw in religion and say, oh, it's a sin.
It's a sin.
Which I'm not even here to say, is it a sin or is not a sin? But even educating them can also, you can still educate them. And that doesn't mean you're encouraging them to do it.
It doesn't.
You're
Exactly.
still educating them. Even as you're educating them, for them to know that, okay, this is what happens, but this is what the scriptures say.
Exactly.
You can still educate.
Of course.
So we have a long way to
And
go.
you can state your preferences and say, oh, my preference is that you wait till you get married or you're older and you meet someone.
And even explain why.
And explain why. But we don't like to explain why. We just like to tell.
Don't just make me laugh.
Actually, we just like to tell.
Yeah.
And and
Simple.
Because you said mention about boys. The thing about it is that you're right. We spend so much time talking about pregnancy because that's the physical evidence of you having
and
sex.
the disgrace to the family name, because that's really what it's about.
Yes, now it's about exactly.
Yeah.
But what we forget is that consent
Yeah.
is on the boy.
Yes.
Consent is on the boy. Are you having that conversation about what is consent? How do you obtain consent?
Tell your son.
Consent is very important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have consent and the girl now, it's very difficult. How do you navigate that? Because there are girls that are evil. That would hit and then tomorrow they'll say, they feel bad because you say you don't want to go. Then they say you raped
Or you
them.
started dating another girl and there's sad.
Exactly. And the thing about that is I don't know the legal sense because I'm not, but it's almost like there's retrospective rape. Something that happened like 7 years ago. Somebody who, because it's still in the law of statute or what the statute of limitation, they bring it and say they'll bring it up, and the next thing you find yourself in court for something that happens many years ago. We have to have these conversations with our boys, and it's not about telling them because of consent don't have sex at all. It's not, because they are going to find themselves in a situation where they are horny enough to have the sex.
Or even if they're not horny enough, the girl wants because the girl wants and she's like, you must.
Exactly.
So it may not even necessarily be the boy who initiates it or who even wants it first, but it's still a situation, and we still have to have this conversation.
Yes, because we're still living under this thing of that. Oh, girls don't initiate sex. These children of nowadays.
Yeah.
Everybody's initiating it.
Everybody's
Nobody's saying.
It's not a generation. It's not a generation that even when you want, you will pretend.
You will pretend. I'm like,
you will pretend and say, "No, because leave me."
Exactly. What do you think you're doing?
These ones.
So you have to have that conversation because they are mixing with everybody. And the thing about, even if you think that they are not, they are. They are. So you have to have that conversation. Don't let your child be left wanting and start seeking for information in other places.
That's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
That's dangerous. And even why I titled this thing "The Birds and the Bees," because the bees is because growing up, many parents, they just feel like we wait until you reach a certain age, we'll call you and we'll have the birds and the bees conversation. And what you're saying is it should be a gradual. There shouldn't be one conversation of the birds and the bees.
It's a continuous
what is the birds and the bees?
Up until
true.
Sure, to be fair, if you ever enter marriage yourself,
true,
you can still have the conversation if you choose to.
Yeah.
It doesn't end because nobody knows everything. I mean, for those that have been watching Bridgerton, you can see now the fact is that they don't know. And some of them have been deceived, thinking that they know, but they don't know.
They don't even know.
They don't even know they're not doing enough to get pregnant.
But they're expecting the baby to come.
Exactly. So we have to, as parents, we need to, as we're teaching our children about creating wealth,
everything,
having a great career, becoming a good person, sex
Completing
education is still as important. Because if we take time and even sit in our own lives and reflect on how we approach sex and how we view sex, we would also realize that most of us, we still have a warped sense of sex. We do it because we're married. We do it because it's expected. We do it because we're supposed to have children. But actually, our thoughts towards sex is that it's dirty, that is not clean, that is done only in a certain way by good girls. If you do it another way, it's by bad. That is not having a healthy thought about sex.
Yeah.
So if you are having this and you thought we are okay, what do you think is going to happen to your child who is bombarded with so much information?
Yeah.
And then probably end up doing things that they don't want to do because no one's told them that actually you have the right to say, I don't want to do that.
What I would say is I think that a lot of our parents did a good job. What I say good job, being sarcastic, a good job in instilling the fear of sex in us. And that made a lot of people not even bother to explore, even as they've gotten older. Even things like sex toys. So many people I know do not even know anything about sex toys. In fact, they think it's just disgusting.
Exactly.
But it's just, they don't even want to even
They don't want to
talk
hear
about
it.
They want to have a conversation about it. Not to go see it.
The concept is like,
It's just disgusting. But that's just, it's all part of that thing. And that's what you were saying about so many of us that think, okay, yes, we're fine. We know what we're doing. A lot of us are not even fine.
Yeah, we're just going through the motions.
We're just,
because it's an expectation of us. And with that, I mean, if people go and read Ofsted's reports on relationship, sex and health education, you realize that our children need help. Our children need a lot of help. So when everybody says, well, I want to take my children out because they're teaching them that, let me tell you something, even if you don't want, let's even go with the LGBTQ plus.
Yes.
Even if you do not want your child to know lesbian, the fact statement that they, and I don't mean it to disrespect, they're everywhere.
Of course.
They are our colleagues.
Of course.
They serve us.
They are
we serve
friends.
them.
Some of
They
them are in the closet to us because they know we would accept.
But the fact statement that part of the education is tolerance. You're teaching your child tolerance, not to judge. Not because, as Christians we always say, you hate the sin, hate the sin, but love the sin or whatever. Now, I don't know if I agree with that completely, but people live that. But I'm like, if you're telling your child 24/7, 8 days a week, is the sin, it's bad. How do you think they're going to relate in the workplace when they grow up? How do you think they're going to relate?
Okay, you're even moving a step further by talking about how they relate in the workplace. How do you think they would even be comfortable if they themselves are struggling with? Because do you understand? Workplace, we're assuming that they're heterosexual and they're in a workplace.
Yeah, we want to bring them in gradually.
But what I'm saying is, if you have that mindset of they're evil, don't learn about them, do them not, whatever. What if your child is even going through that? It's not a phase. Yeah, in their life, they feel like, what, I like, your boy may think, oh, I like boys, but I think I like girls. But I like boys. How are they even going to have that conversation with you?
I can bet you that every time everybody does listen to you when you say God forbid.
Yeah, I'm not.
Everybody.
Well, know me, I say the things that people are thinking, but they don't want to say.
They are all of us say.
Why are we just assuming that all our children are heterosexual? That's even another conversation.
That's a different conversation, my sister. You have to. The reason why I went.
Oh no, I already have somebody lined up to have a conversation.
Because you're right. Because when they're having that, because it's a struggle.
Yes,
it's a massive struggle.
Yes,
because you're battling between how you're feeling, the confusion of your hormones, and how you're feeling, and then you're battling what is happening in the home.
Yes,
with everything that they have said.
Are you mad? Are you mad to raise that conversation?
And I have to always say to parents is that just because you have a conversation does not mean you're condoning it.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're condoning it. It doesn't even mean you're against it. But what you're doing is telling your child, I can listen to you.
Yeah.
You have a problem. The same way you have a problem about whether you should be a science or art student, the same way you should be able to
study medicine or law.
You should be able to come to me about the thought that you're having. Because ultimately it's still your decision, no? But let me help you, ask you the questions for you to think. And it also teaches me as a parent to be tolerant. Because we, as you said, we don't want to think, we assume all our children are going to be heterosexual.
Nobody's planning a show before for wedding.
You know, everybody, and you say, oh, but you know,
wedding, that you don't know what is going to happen, or if it happens, it may not be a type of wedding you thought you were going to attend, because this Gen Z, they don't send you.
Exactly. Positive confession. So let me tell you something. The first